Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Sportscast Podcast. This week we'll unpack an action-packed weekend of FA Cup action, look at the Formula One and the turbulent news that's coming out of that sport at the moment, look at the darts and the tennis, as well as wrapping up with big news out of Liverpool.
Jordan, how are we?
I'm not bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very, very well.
FA Cup weekend.
Oh, I'll tell you what, there's been I think there's been an awful lot of talking points from the FA Cup this weekend. You could start with Ipswich Maidstone yesterday dinner time. Belter of a game. Have you seen the fan that when Maidstone scored their second when they won, they've got a two-tier stand.
Right.
It's got a roof on the bottom tier to the top tier.
Yeah.
And one of the Maidstone fans has been celebrating, fallen onto said roof and fallen onto the people below.
Oh my God.
Like rolled down it and fallen in below. Yeah, he got up and it.
Right.
All right. But you had that. You had not FA Cup, but League One. You had Port Vale versus Portsmouth. You had a player unhappy that Portsmouth got a penalty, and he chased the referee down the tunnel during the game.
Oh, really? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then obviously, I don't know if you've seen today's West Brom Wolves.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite the comedy of falling on a roof, but I mean, chasing a referee down a tunnel's pathetic. And then obviously today's antics, extremely pathetic.
Yeah, it ruins it, doesn't it? But
yeah,
overall, some pretty decent results. Like,
yeah,
if you were to want to bet on any high scoring weekends or high scoring kind of games, then usually the FA Cup is where it's at. I mean, you've had 5-0 Bournemouth Swansea, 5-2 Brighton Sheffield United, 3-0 Leicester. You've had
5-2 Liverpool.
5-2, yeah. Today, just full time an hour ago, Man United 4, Newport County 2, which I thought Newport County did well at 2, to be fair. Well, fair play to them. They were 2-0 down. 2-0 down.
The result, I watched quite a bit of it. The result doesn't do Newport justice.
No.
Does
it reflect the turmoil and poor form that Manchester United are currently in?
That is also very, very true and very plausible.
Yeah. Some replays to come midweek. Not this week, next week. Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds and Plymouth, Nottingham Forest and Bristol City, and then Chelsea versus Aston Villa.
And Watford, Southampton after today's result.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's coming in quite a few draws. They've already made the draw for the next round. So you've got obviously tomorrow's game, Blackburn Wrexham versus Newcastle. Chelsea Villa will play the winner of Leeds Plymouth, both replays. Bournemouth Leicester. Liverpool play the winner of Watford Southampton. And then Bristol Nottingham Forest get Manchester United.
Okay, cool. There is still one game to go though, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Your team.
So yeah, this is a bit of an iffy one, I'll be honest, because the rumour is, and I don't know how true this is, Wrexham have sold out their full 7,000 allocation. Great. Not surprised. Could have given more. Blackburn have sold 5,000 tickets. Now, obviously, season tickets don't go into FA Cup. So you can't say, yeah, but you've got 10,000 season ticket holders. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So on the face of it, we're going to be playing at home with more away fans than home fans.
Yeah, and it like financially doesn't make sense. Like if you can sell the tickets, I don't know exactly how it works in terms of like, do Wrexham take a cut or is it all Blackburn Rovers because it's their stadium type thing?
FA Cup is a 50-50 split in all revenue. That's why it's always nice for the small teams to get
right. Okay,
a big draw, because if a small team goes to Manchester United, they get 75,000 people.
Yeah.
they get 37,500. You know,
Do they? Is there prize money for progressing to the further rounds as well?
Yes,
for example.
yes.
Okay, so for the likes of who's gone through today, yesterday Maidstone.
So Maidstone, since the turn of so their FA Cup run and the TV rights, they've earned £560,000 this season, not including ticket sales.
Nice.
I think Ipswich is 27,000. So that was there yesterday. So they've got that. You've got a team that was in the conference last year. They're now in the Conference South, but they're doing well. They should go straight back up. But that kind of revenue, $1 million. Those players, that'll cover their salaries for the year.
I was going to say they're probably only on 40 grand a year, and that's a good wage.
If
across the board,
if that, yeah.
But no, it's good. I like the FA Cup. I like all it brings. I like the football. I like the kind of the atmosphere. I like the idea that Maidstone can beat Ipswich. I like the fact that potentially, well, like you see Luton, Man City anyway, but I like the fact that smaller teams can pull out big results and progress, and it's good. It's grassroots football essentially. I know the big boys don't come into play until much later, but it is essentially conference football meets Champions League finalists.
Yeah, it literally is. I mean, last year, Maidstone went out in the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup. I can't remember who it was to, but obviously it was Minnows for the obvious reason. But this year, they're in the fifth round. Against the winner of Sheffield Wednesday Coventry away. Yeah. So again, another away tie with a high revenue value.
Yeah, good. All good.
So there's been a lot go off this week. Very, very quickly, I'll touch on a bit of rugby just because a couple of weeks ago we said about how James brought up about how Owen Farrell, the England 10, was sort of flirting with Racing 92 and how it was all rumours. Well, this week they've announced that he will join at the end of this season on a 2-year deal. But the Six Nations documentary dropped this week. Very exciting. So that starts on Friday night. So obviously we'll have a bit of that to go through next week.
I'm going to make time to watch that. I'll probably, if it's 5 or 6 episodes, the 5 or 6 mornings that I'm up early, I'll probably stick it on.
There's a few more, but they're not an hour long. They're 35 to 45 minutes long. Yeah. So, but obviously it's my sport. It's what I really, really love. But this year, they concentrate on some big players, and you've got Owen Farrell, you've got Lewis Rees-Zammit, Stuart Hogg, and Antoine Dupont that are all in the documentary. Antoine Dupont's but the best player in the world at the minute. There's no two ways about it. And you're drawing in this crowd of people to watch, but none of those players are going to be there this year. Owen Farrell's stepping away from international rugby.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
For a break. Lewis Rees-Zammit's gone to play in the NFL. Stuart Hogg retired, and Antoine Dupont's missing it because he wants to concentrate on the rugby sevens going into the Olympics.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that it's going to draw a crowd in that aren't going to be there.
Yeah.
But,
I'm in two minds. I mean, you watch Drive to Survive and you've watched all 7 series. How many series is there actually?
I think they've had 6, haven't they? They've had 6, haven't they?
Yeah, like you've watched Drive to Survive and you've watched all of them, and I've watched the last 3 years, I think. And I, as a diehard rugby fan, I don't know what your opinion is of it. Is it quite dramatised versus what you would like, or because I know Drive to Survive is very dramatised, but they keep it quite simplistic in terms of it's not very deep in terms of like the actual racing and the tactics and the Formula One politics and that kind of thing. It's very dramatised. So I wonder about your opinion on that.
So the first episode follows Scotland's first game, and they played against Wales, and then they played against. No, they played against England, then they played against Wales.
Yeah.
So it follows that. It follows the Scotland camp, and it follows the coach, the training, and everything else. And then they do show, a good 15 minutes from the game. But and then the next episode was mainly around the French and the Irish, and it's the same concept so far for through the episodes.
Yeah.
So it's very, at least with Drive to Survive, the tricky part is there's only 6 weekends well, there's 5 weekends in the rugby because you've got 6 teams. With Drive to Survive, you've got normally 22 races, so you can sort of go to Williams, you can cover like 3 or 4 different races, and then you can go to McLaren and cover a different 3 or 4, 2 or 3 races.
Yeah,
with this, you go to England and they're playing these teams. You go to Scotland and they're playing the same teams.
Yeah.
So you kind of, and then if you've already done the England-Scotland game, from England's perspective, then you do the Scotland-England game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's a little.
But
bit.
Can you make that into 2 episodes? Scotland versus England, England versus probably not.
Yeah,
I get what you said about Drive to Survive. Netflix are getting more and more kind of sporting programs. Anyway, they did like a golf special for the phone, which was really fucking weird, like to watch, but I enjoyed it. But they've also just brought out a NASCAR documentary, which I'm keen to watch. I'm a general motorsport fan anyway. I like cars, I like motorsport, I like racing, I like that type of competition. And I will be getting it's on my list of things to watch, the NASCAR thing. So, I mean, Amazon, I don't know whether they're going to compete with Amazon. Amazon got some of the live Premier League and football and odds and sods on there, but Netflix are more documentary type thing.
Yeah, it all started around this All or Nothing. I can't remember if it was the Man City one first on Amazon, but there's a few. Me and James touched on the Toronto Maple Leafs one, and you've got Kansas City Chiefs and things like that, and then they do some like college football ones, and I think it's all off the back of that and how do you do it around a whole sport. I mean, they've even got the Breakpoint one, the tennis one.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. That only came out like 3 weeks ago, didn't it?
Yeah, they released a few episodes,
Okay,
they've batched a few, and then the second batch have come out, which obviously today was the final of the Australian Open with Djokovic, who lost in the semi-finals. That's the first time he's not been in the final since 2018. So he's had 6 years in a row in the Australian final.
Wow.
But young Italian Sinner has picked up his first major trophy. So he's only 22, Yannick Sinner. Two sets down, came back, won 3-2. So yeah, always nice to see a first-time winner in there.
Yeah, I mean, we have had a like Carlos Alcaraz. I know he won his first major, didn't he, last year? Is the Australian Open a major?
It is. It was the year before, wasn't it? He went in the US and then he went into Wimbledon. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. Like we've had not Djokovic. We've had Federer and Nadal like dominate for so many years, and it's nice to see individuals coming through and winning on their own merit and not kind of you must have knocked big players out to get to the final. No easy runs, if you know what I mean.
Yes, it's nice. I think the men's tennis is in a good place. I'm not too sure on the women's tennis because it seems that anyone could beat anyone. I know one of the favourites went out early doors to very low ranked person, but and that happens more often than in the men's league, the men's game. But it is nice to see a few different people coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is probably a little bit more predictable. I say more predictable. I probably don't mean that actually. You could probably pick between 3 at the moment, and that is the World Darts Tour.
With what? Sorry.
So you've got 3 people really. You've got obviously Michael Van Gerwen and Luke Humphries, but then obviously Luke Littler. Those guys are really pulling in a hell of a lot of media attention and a hell of a lot of attention in general towards darts. And Van Gerwen kind of got revenge last night to beat Littler to win the Dutch Masters after being beaten a couple of weeks before in Bahrain. So 1 apiece in 2024 for those 2.
It's nice to see that Luke Littler has technically made 3 finals back to back.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
it goes to show that it's not a
Emma Raducanu moment.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, she's back with her original coach. I think they do that a lot in tennis, don't they? They swap and change coaches too often, and you don't get enough stability. But yeah, you know what? You get a bit of that in snooker as well. I mean, Ronnie O'Sullivan's won back-to-back titles as well last weekend and the weekend before. But you don't swap and change your coach just because you lose a match. But she's tended to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
Raducanu, but it's nice to see that darts is finding a bit more media attention, and it's I've always loved it. Van Gerwen is unbelievable. People, I think last week James was saying about Phil Taylor's record. I don't think the game you'll never break Phil Taylor's record, because you're in a different era, and what I mean by that is you only really had Taylor and Van Barneveld through that period, whereas now you've got a little bit like the tennis, maybe we've been ruined by Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. You've got Van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, these people that have performed very, very highly for a long time. So
in a way, though, it's good for the sport. Competition is good for any sport, and you don't just want one team absolutely running away with it. And that's why probably the Premier League is the best league in the world, because you've got two teams in the La Liga, you've got two teams in the Bundesliga, you've got two teams in the Turkish league. Well, arguably one team in the Turkish league.
Yeah.
And then with the Premier League, literally anybody can win it, as Leicester proved, and Blackburn have won it in the past, and like Man United, Liverpool, Man City. But then they're all pushing each other to compete, and it's the best.
That's it. Liverpool have only won it once.
Exactly.
But they've been there or thereabouts the last sort of 6, 7, 8 years. We'll come back to them before we finish. But another sport where, unfortunately it is dominated by one team, has had a lot going on this week, is Formula One.
Yes. So
there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. I'll start off quickly with contracts. So I'm very, very pleased to say that Lando Norris has signed a contract extension with McLaren until the end of 2026. That means both him and his teammate are on the same length of contract. They both terminate at the end of 2026, if not extend. But to me, that actually kind of backs up what I said last week on the podcast, where I said that potentially McLaren have found something and they're going to be rapid this year. And the reason I say that is because silly season is going to be mental this year. I think out of all of the drivers, I think it's 60% have a contract that runs out of the end of this season. So this silly season is going to be crazy, and I think Zach Brown and McLaren just want to focus on the driving and the racing, and have extended both drivers' contracts out of season and pre-season, and they're ready to go in Bahrain.
Yeah, just get them looked after, get it settled, and get it knocked off. Leclerc also signing a contract extension.
Yeah. Probably to his own detriment, being Ferrari. However, I do like Ferrari in the same way as like you like a puppy. It's cute and that, but like or a kitten. You really like a kitten because it's cute, but actually you'd have a dog.
So I think Leclerc feels at home with Ferrari. I think that's the thing. But what gets me with Lando Norris is his terminology in his interview, where he said he didn't want to go to Red Bull because he didn't want to be up against Max. And I thought,
he's up against Max anyway, just in a slower car.
Exactly. So it just didn't make sense to me.
But was it ever on? Was that option ever on the table? Like they've said that they've not getting rid of Checo, and they've not by continuing Checo's employment.
Not
was
this
it ever
year,
even on the
not
cards?
this year, but next year.
Yeah.
One of the big things as well. They've moved the Spanish Grand Prix from Catalonia into Madrid as a half street, half circuit race.
Yes.
Which I think Catalonia is one of the oldest races on the calendar.
It is.
I like it. They do the testing there. I don't understand why they've... Well, there's not a lot to understand at the minute with them.
To be honest with you, I'd like to read a little bit more into it. I think the reason will probably be the same reason as the Las Vegas Grand Prix. There is no middleman with the Las Vegas Grand Prix because Formula One are the primary stakeholders in the Las Vegas Grand Prix. They literally own the rights to it. It's their track. They've kind of brought this all. So the margin and the actual pure profit is with the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Whereas Silverstone, for example, they pay a fee to Formula One to hold a Formula One race. So maybe it's got something to do with that. But I actually watched a sim mock-up of the new track, and it looks pretty decent. There's a couple of questionable, weird corners, including a left-hand chicane, which I find purely ridiculous. But it's definitely a hybrid. It's definitely a kind of a weird thing to have a street circuit and a racing track, but. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, but it's not this year. I think it's next year or 2026. I don't know.
Yes, I think the contract runs out in 2026 at Catalonia. So
I will be disappointed to see that track go, though. I liked it, and they've even changed it. They got rid of the chicane at the end because it was a pain in the arse. Which I agree, it was a pain in the arse, but I like
it a lot quicker. 9 tracks contracts are out this season. You've got the Japanese Silverstone.
Wow.
And then next year, Belgium, Monaco, Italian, Mexican, Imola, and the Dutch. Oh, the Chinese. So they can't get
rid of Silverstone because then that would mean there was no British Grand Prix, and because Donington's not a track for Formula One.
No, but will they try and create some sort of street circuit on the outskirts of London?
I would bomb it.
This is what they're doing, though.
Yeah, like Las Vegas is pretty decent, but there goes Max Verstappen flying by Croy.
That's what everyone's sort of circulating around on Twitter saying. So, I don't like these street tracks.
Just quickly before we move on from Formula One as well, there's two teams that's had a name change. So Alfa Romeo are now Sauber Stake and Alpha Tauri. Alfa Romeo are now Sauber Stake, and then Alpha Tauri are now the what are they called? Visa Contactless Racing Bulls or something daft like that. I don't know.
It's horrendous, is what it is.
Yeah,
it's absolutely horrendous. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. Have your sponsorship down the side of the car. I mean, they can't even have it in the Middle East.
No, or Australia, because Australia's got really strict gambling rules in that advertisement. So one of the main tracks that's been around for years and years and years, they're going to have a bare livery, or they're going to have backup sponsors just for those circuits.
Going back to the circuit, apparently today, FIA have trademarked numerous ways of phrasing the Chicago Grand Prix.
Oh, for God's sake, another American one.
Yep. So you can see it online. You can see the proof where they've trademarked it, and they've trademarked about 11 to 12 different ways of saying Chicago Grand Prix Chicago, da 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 da. So
weird. Look,
yes,
they can add another Formula One race in America, but it will have to be an additional race because I don't want to lose any of the tracks other than Zandvoort because I don't like Max Verstappen.
yes. Last but not least, the big news this week really was Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool after 8 seasons.
Yeah, big news, but there's more to it. So that was the big news that came out. But apparently, all the backroom staff are also not going with him, but like they're either walking or they're going with him wherever he's going. So
yeah,
I don't know whether there is some kind of buyout that's coming and the people don't like it that we don't know about, or whether there's some movement kind of from the management of Liverpool, the business management of Liverpool. But it was such a shock, and he's doing such a brilliant job, as much as you probably don't want to admit it. And he has done such a good job, and he feels at home in Liverpool. to all of a sudden, randomly, completely out of the blue, announce that you are leaving at the end of the season, and that's that, is odd.
Big news. Yeah, they do a lot of hours, managers, and you're working non-stop. I always think about that. I mean, people like Roy Hodgson that go on for years and things, but they're always the first ones in. They're always the last ones to leave. He's away from probably his family as much. It's not an easy job for them.
No.
And at that level, maybe it is time for him to move on.
Yeah, not short of cash either. So retire to south of Italy and enjoy. Not like Roy Hodgson, who will literally, they'll carry him out of QPR
of Crystal Palace.
Yeah, in a bag.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I'll catch up with you next week. We'll have James back, and we'll go through what happens this week.
Cool. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us this week on the Sportscast podcast. As normal, you'll get us on our social media, Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, at SportscastPod UK. Join us again next week.